Hello everyone. Exploring Christian theology and Zechariah story from sin to salvation. Summary of the story. In the Bible, Jesus Christ is presented as the saving sacrifice. He paid for the sins of the people by sacrificing himself. This belief is somehow derived from a verse in Zechariah's story that refers to the branch and says that he will take away the sin of the land. But is this interpretation of Zechariah's story correctly related to the concept of sin and covenant in the Old Testament? In fact, sin in the Old Testament means the violation of the covenant that God made with the people of Israel, and this violation caused them to be exiled from the Promised Land. The concept of sin in the Old Testament. Sin in the Old Testament, especially in the text related to the nation of Israel, means the violation of the divine contract. God has promised the people of Israel that if they worship Him and follow His commands, they will live in their own land. But when the Israelites turned to other gods and broke God's commandments, especially in social and moral areas, this betrayal of God's covenant led to sin. For this reason, God exiled them from their land to experience the consequences of their sin. Logical propositions. Breaking the covenant with God. The Jews committed sin by breaking their covenant with God. Consequences of sin. Exile from the promised land is the result of sin and betrayal of God's covenant. The connection of Zechariah's story with sin. Zechariah's story refers to the branch that is supposed to take away the sin of the land, but this sin refers to the sin that caused the exile, not the general sin of the people. Lack of complete understanding. The authors of the New Testament may not have a complete understanding of the concept of sin and covenant in the Old Testament and may have referred to only one part of the text. Logical formula. If the Jews have betrayed God's covenant and committed a sin, then their exile from the promised land should be considered as the natural consequences of this sin. As if Zechariah's story is interpreted only as an independent text, then its historical and theological context may be overlooked. Commentary. This formula shows that a deep understanding of the sacred text and their historical context is necessary for correct interpretation. Jesus Christ is presented as the Savior, but for a deeper understanding of this concept, one must pay attention to the sin and the covenants made with the people of Israel. Otherwise, interpretations may be incomplete and misleading. Also, understanding sin as a violation of God's covenant helps us see Jesus' role as Savior in a deeper and more historical context. Conclusion. To fully understand Christian theology and its relationship to the Old Testament, we need a closer examination of the sacred text and their historical context. This review can help clarify an uh, uh, ambiguities and contradictions in the interpretations and lead to a better understanding of theological concepts. Sin as a violation of the covenant with God not only led to the exile of the Jews, but also raises questions about salvation and Jesus Christ. In your opinion, is the Christian interpretation of sin as salvation completely consistent with the concept of sin in the Old Testament? Yes, it fits perfectly. No, it is incomplete and misleading. It depends on individual interpretation. It needs further investigation. Thank you so much for your attention.